Thank you, James, for that excellent introduction. It's a pleasure to have you here. And welcome, everybody, to our event. We're delighted to see you all here. As James mentioned, we were sort of the last event before COVID. And here we are. It's thrilling to see everyone. And some of you we've only met on Zoom, so to meet in person is fantastic. Now, the industry term pioneer and leader, they're sort of bandied around a lot in crypto. But for my special guest today, Jenna Wright, that's actually an accurate description. I'm so delighted to have you here, Jenna. So thanks for coming. LMAX is an institutional exchange only. We're going to be talking a little bit about what that means. It's exciting. It's consistently highly ranked in our CryptoCompare exchange benchmark review. And so it's a very, very safe place to interact, and the volumes are now staggering, really. So I've prepped some questions for Jenna. They're going to be a magical mystery tour of questions. But please do use Slido. If you would like to have a question answered, I will try and get one in at the end. So thank you. So Jenna, welcome. How are you feeling?
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's very exciting. As James has alluded to, the very last time we were here, people were just pulling out, flying over, and we were starting to talk about this thing called coronavirus. So it's good to be back, and I think first London event of the year.
Yeah.
So the events are just starting from here, all over the world over the next few months, but very happy.
It's going to be exciting and exhausting.
Yeah.
Now look, Jenna, I first met the LMAX team in Singapore in 2018 with the Consensus edition, and I remember being absolutely blown away already that your approach and institutional only sort of offering that you had. And so you're obviously very early. Could you talk a little bit about what it meant to sort of start offering services then, and given you so early, like what did that look like?
Yeah, sure. So by way of background, LMAX Group has operated foreign exchange venues around the globe in London, New York, and Tokyo since 2010. So we've been in capital markets for a while now. We trade around $25 billion a day in FX, and in 2017 we had a bunch of existing non-bank institutional type clients ask us if we could look at this crypto piece. So they were market making on a ton of retail crypto exchanges, but there wasn't really a venue that they would consider institutional grade, where they would be able to offset some of their risk, perhaps risk reduce, and really trade with other like-minded participants. So could we take what we were doing in foreign exchange and replicate that in the crypto world? So when we had a look at it, actually for us, Bitcoin dollar was very similar to euro dollar.
Right.
Didn't take much more than that.
No.
It was essentially the same software, just new hardware, so it was just a fifth exchange, very trivial for us given that we'd done it 4 times before. Yeah. And we thought we'd give it a go. The bit that took a bit longer was the concept of custody. We'd heavily relied on banks to do that for us in the past on the fiat side. And then the regulatory piece. So we are heavily regulated across the globe for all things FX, and we wanted to replicate that on the crypto side. So on the custody piece, it was very much a hot wallet situation in 2017, and given that we were looking to, in the same way that we do for FX, only target institutional type clients, hot wallets weren't going to work for us. We'd be holding, tens and hundreds of millions, perhaps billions very early on. And so we decided to build it in-house. We're a technology firm at heart, and we built a proprietary custodian. So we now run the two. We operate exchanges for foreign exchange and institutional crypto, spot crypto that is, and the custodian too.
Nice, thank you. And I mean, obviously you talk about client demand, and the best way to build a business is with the actual customer asking you to do something for them. But was there a personal interest in crypto, or was it something that was on your radar?
Funnily enough, not too much. I'd left LMAX in 2017 to have my first baby. And then when we started talking about this idea, that sort of drew me in. I felt a little bit like I'd done the FX piece for 8 or so years. Yeah. Maybe there was a lot more for me to learn in a new asset class. So I'd say I didn't know much. Yeah. And now it's, breakfast, lunch and dinner, around the kids, crypto, work. There's a lot going on.
I guess your children have Bitcoin already as well, man.
Yeah, of course. I mean, their wallets were in their bank accounts soon, I think.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, look, it's a learning curve for all of us. And actually, I think that one thing that we can take away today is that we're never done learning in crypto. Like, we see, as CryptoCompare, we see the entire ecosystem, and there's not a day that I don't feel overwhelmed. So if you feel that way, you're not alone. Great, so on a personal note, before we get into sort of more sort of interesting questions about LMAX, I was thrilled to see, the top 25 women leaders in Europe. That was a very, very great development. And I'm always very impressed at the caliber of women that I meet in crypto. Now, sometimes I feel that perhaps it's a bit of a daunting industry for women. It's quite male-heavy. There's a little bit of a crypto bro feeling occasionally. Like, what's your thoughts about that? And sort of what's LMAX doing to empower women to come in?
Yeah, I mean, it's been the same in capital markets. It's same for me. I guess I've been very lucky. At LMAX, we're very good at trying to work out the gender balance quite early on. So we bring in the young grads, which was pretty much me 13 years ago. And we like to promote within, and we like to offer opportunities. So I think it's about, as a woman, finding the right firm that might be able to offer you that opportunity, and then just going with it. I mean, fundamentally, crypto, capital markets, you've got to be in it to want to be part of it. And I mean, we are keen to add more women, so should anyone want to come and talk to me, please do after. But yeah, I mean, we really need to grow our crypto presence. We're over 200 people within the group, but only 17 people dedicated to our crypto setup. So we leverage a lot of different departments within our group, but we're really keen for great people to join. So.
Those 17 people never sleep, by the way.
Yes,
so that's a different,
exactly that.
different comment. Just in the London scene, are there sort of meetups for women, like Telegram groups? Like, will you be able to sort of share some of those things maybe in the notes afterwards?
Yeah, of course. I mean, there are a ton of meetup groups, Telegram, Signal. I actually struggle to keep up with most of it, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly. I have Telegram on mute, but that's another topic. So back in 2018, you mentioned some of these sort of constraints that you faced when you were building your institutional-only exchange. Like, a lot of the infrastructure wasn't there. You've mentioned custody. Are there any other sort of constraints that you had, maybe on the client side? And from an anecdote perspective, anything go wrong? Did anything surprise you? Got anything interesting that you might share that's now sufficiently far in the past that is less worrisome to talk about?
I think we were quite lucky. So we entered this space as an exchange operator. So a lot of retail exchanges in the crypto world today know a hell of a lot about Bitcoin and crypto. So they are Bitcoin evangelists, and they build their websites for website traffic. We are, our theory across both asset classes, we're here for 100% uptime, high throughput, low latency. So actually, it wasn't that tough. It was all the stuff that we did. We'd built the trust over the last decade. We were all about technology, reliability, scalability, all these cliche topics. It's really what we did. 40% of the clients who trade on LMAX Digital with us today actually trade foreign exchange within our group. So it was building something for existing clients. And then, we've spent the last 4 years trying to onboard the crypto natives, the guys that we wouldn't necessarily have known from foreign exchange. I guess to answer the last bit of your question, what was tough? What was actually tough, and what we've learned from our newer clients, is that we're in a little bit of an old school way of doing things in crypto. So we didn't have things like REST APIs and WebSockets. No. We'd never heard of them, right? Our traditional guys are used to fix and itch and trying to take every single order or print of a price that ever exists. That's not really necessary today in crypto. No. So I probably spent the best part of 3 years trying to convince my CTO that we need a REST API. And that was tough. We got there.
I spent some time as well.
But, things like being part of exchange benchmarks and being able to publish our volume on websites that people really do look at for trading volume, we couldn't be part of that because we didn't have a REST API. So it was almost going backwards to move forwards.
Yeah, exactly. But I guess that's one of the situations where the traditional finance setup is not really congruent with digital asset markets, because you've got this fixed protocol, which actually literally has to go down once a day. And there's a little window where it sort of resets itself and sort of probably sends some faxes, something like that. And so, of course, in a 24/7 market, that doesn't really work. And so, just fixing those things, and as you say, adopting REST API sort of technology has been pretty good. The other thing that I find interesting from an institutional perspective is that you're already sort of low latency ready. And we haven't seen the latency question rear its head much, except in the last 6 months.
Yeah.
And now people are talking about latency and why it's important. And there are sometimes, a lot of the digital asset exchanges have cloud infrastructure. So you have to connect to the exchange, you get the bounce back, and then you've got some latency. So if you're operating at the higher end of the high frequency spectrum, then you might find that you're trying to fulfill bids and offers that just aren't there anymore. So that's, I guess, a big part of your value proposition too, right? You can say to institutions, we're set, we're ready for this.
Yeah, and you've hit the nail on the head. I think the last 9 to 12 months, we're really seeing true institutional adoption on the back of that, because people are starting to care about these things.
Yeah.
So we've been trying to promote a lot of this low latency concept, but it hasn't been relevant.
No.
But we're seeing a change now, and that kind of gets us a bit excited, because we're like, okay, this is what we've quietly been trying to do over the last few years. So yeah, you're totally right.
Yeah, no, well, great. I mean, maybe now we can talk a little bit about your offering. And across the ecosystem, there's been an explosion of services that are offered. Obviously trading, and there's borrowing, lending, staking, all those kind of things. Can you talk about sort of how the ways that you serve your customers now, and then maybe more interestingly, what have you got coming over the horizon?
Yeah, so we, given our 17 dedicated people,
Yes.
We're not so fast on product building as some of the larger exchanges in crypto. On the digital side, we have been offering a spot service for the last 4 years. So the top 5 or 6 legacy coins versus 4 different fiat pairs. And to be honest, 85% of the volume we do is in Bitcoin and Ethereum. So for us and our institutional client base and the clients that we're looking to onboard further down the line, we don't think we'll ever have 1,000 coins. That's not really what we do. No. We probably should get to maybe the top 15, and that's something that we'll look to do. But the spot crypto offering alongside our margin FX and deliverable FX product go really well hand in hand. A few of the banking issues in crypto has meant that our deliverable FX piece has really been quite popular. Allowing our larger clients to settle in dollars despite any currency they trade with us has been pretty helpful. But I guess the big piece for us this year is we've just made a press release on launching a futures product. So it will be a centrally cleared futures product, and it should go very well with our spot offering. A lot of our clients are trading arbitrage strategies between the derivatives and the spot, so having that under one roof we think will be great. And we have 35 banks who trade FX with us. We haven't quite been able to get them to trade spot crypto yet because they're not allowed to, but we know they very much need and want exposure, and a cash-settled derivative is one way of getting them to engage via a clearing member. So they get that piece of what they're used to, the credit intermediation, all these more professional ways of trading. It ties in quite nicely. So we're building that. We've built it on our side. We have partnered with SIX, so again, giving the product some credentials, and we're looking to launch towards the end of Q3 this year, pretty much in a beta stage for the rest of the year. Yeah. And then in Q1 next year, we'll be rolling out a full 24/7 offering. So we're hoping to bring something new to the table in terms of a grown-up futures product. It will be a monthly and a quarterly. Nice. We won't be focused on perpetuals or anything that we think is slightly more retail today, but really going for the grown-ups who want to trade a futures product without physically touching the crypto. Yeah. So that's our plan. It's a lot of building and getting it right and coming up with the finer details today.
Exciting.
Very exciting, yeah.
If we can help. Yeah, got my number. So looking forward then again, sort of we've solved so much. We've all worked together. We've fixed a few problems that we've seen, and I think regulators are beginning to be a little bit more receptive. Certainly institutions, the top 5 are coming in and saying that they've got offerings. What barriers still remain, do you think? And in terms of the exchange ecosystem, you touched on it briefly, can you talk a little bit about credit intermediation in crypto and banking and maybe even prime services? There's a lot there.
Yeah. So credit intermediation is still the biggest piece, the biggest barrier for us. We've typically always spoken about adoption, banking, and credit, ABC being the issues. We're pretty confident the adoption's coming here, happening in the last 6 to 12 months in particular. We're having some incredible conversations that you could only ever have dreamed of sort of 24 months ago. You're getting traditional funds ring you up. And we're very used to crypto native funds. So the difference is it's huge. Family offices want to start allocating. So it's an educational piece for us. The credit piece, the banking piece first. Look, we need tier 1 banks to bank us crypto firms. You're going to get asset managers with larger balance sheets than the crypto-friendly banks that we use today, and that's a problem. So, the more and more we can talk to the banks and get them on side, we're having these conversations. There's a lot of and then finally, the credit piece. Back to the asset managers again. They need to trade in a manner that they're used to. Via credit intermediators. And hopefully our futures piece, bringing that credit piece in, is like the start of where we see that the spot product could get to too. Yeah. We are speaking to a number of banks that are looking at it. They want to PB the space. Yeah.
Would you do PB yourself, or would you?
I mean, we almost do it today, because every client is facing us as a broker to access our exchange, because in terms of membership criteria, in crypto it's a little different. Even if it's the biggest names on the street, they don't trade as themselves in crypto. They tend to be an offshore entity, and therefore they don't really want to face each other. So we have a broker solution to allow everyone to trade with each other, and as a result of that, we're taking the credit risk. Right. That said, our balance sheet is not infinite, so it's not really scalable, and that's why for the futures product that we built probably 18 months ago now, we've really wanted to make a big push on partnering with SIX and having the clearing concept. So there's work to be done, I think, for a few more of the bigger names to be comfortable enough on the credit side. And again, it's not if, it's when. Yeah. So I think we're getting closer. We're closer than we've ever been before, and it's just timing now.
Well, it's certainly exciting. I'm getting to my last question for Jenna. So please, if you've got any questions, we're going to have time probably for a quick one. So whack it on Slido. So look, 2022, what a year so far, right? It's we've had everything. We've had geopolitical unrest, and heart goes out to those poor people that are involved in the conflict, and that's first and foremost. We're humans, and that's awful. Obviously, the macro picture has shaped global asset classes, and we've seen all of them, fall 20% or so, even US equities. Certainly European equities, and crypto as well. So, volatility seems fairly constant, and that's a net positive. I think people are getting used to that. We've obviously got inflation coming. We've got the inflation here, and we've got monetary tightening. How are your clients feeling? Like, can you talk a little bit? What are are they reticent for crypto? Are they slowing down, or how are they feeling?
2022 feels a little bit like the year of consolidation so far, very different to how last year panned out in terms of trading activity, which was almost unsustainable, a little wild in the first half of last year. But look, I think we've briefly touched on it. If we go back to 2018, when we took our crypto offering to 35 banks who trade FX with us, they kind of said, congratulations, well done, see you later, tell us how you get on. Yeah. And then you fast forward to now, and everyone's knocking on the door. They want to take you for lunch. They want to understand what's going on, because they have strategies, they have teams.
Are they asking for jobs? Let's be honest.
There's that as well. But they're keen, right? The regulatory piece holds them back to a certain degree, but there's other ways of doing it. Mm-hmm. They are investing in blockchain technology companies. They're doing the VC piece. They are looking at perhaps being a custodian. Do they hold it? Do they invest in it? Do they trade it? Do they clear it? Like, everyone's got every bank has a different angle from my conversations. Mm-hmm. But the reality is they're engaged, and they're taking my market data, and I couldn't get them to do that in 2018. Right. I was pushing it onto them and just saying, you just point over there this time. It's exactly the same, and that was key for us. Allow our existing clients, don't make it hard work for them to trade crypto. Offer them the same thing, just over there. And now a third of those 35 are taking the market data.
Fantastic.
So they're prepping, you know, the EFX desk that we know who trade at foreign exchange are just waiting. The algos are good to go. So I think we're in the best position we've ever been.
Yeah.
You know, from our side, we're just going to, in the background, we're going to provide our institutional grade infrastructure. We're going to stay quite vanilla in what we do. We're going to operate exchanges. We're going to match buyers and sellers across asset classes.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's very, very exciting.
Well, Jenna, it's been absolutely fascinating. I do have one final question, just to prep you for Bitcoin Miami.
Yeah.
Are we going to 100,000?
Well, I've been told that when I'm on a panel next week, if I say that it is, they're going to pick me up and throw me around stage. So, yeah, let's go with that.
I think so too. I think one way that we get to 100,000 is via institutional participation. And we can't do it without them. And so thank you, everyone. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you, Jenna,
Thank you.
for being
Thanks
so
for having
open.
me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello.